Boom. Hey, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy, and our special guest ran away from us, but she'll be right back in a minute. She had to go get her assistant. And for those who don't know, I'm Teddy, and the guy who's on here with me is Randy. Our special guest today is our good friend Merikay Hunt. And I want to thank our 2023 sponsor, Blackwell Captive Solutions. This is your healthcare plan your biggest spend? What more power and greater transparency with your health? Do you want more power and transparency with your health plan? Then Blackwell Captive Solutions is who you need to talk with. They equalize the playing field, so your cost is not based on your insurance companies, what they want to charge. Rather, they allow you to help you track every dollar and figure out how to make your expenses less. If you need help, reach out to Blackwell Captive Solutions. I'm getting better at that, Randy. With a new sponsor and a new script, I got to practice a little bit more. So,
so who are you, Teddy? Buddy? Yeah, who are you? Who are you? What are you doing here anyway?
Oh man, so yeah. For those who've never met me, I'm Teddy. I'm a LinkedIn strategist, trainer, and coach. I'm also a Google Workspace consultant, teaching people how to use LinkedIn and Google Workspace's business. I hang out in the Winston-Salem, North Carolina area in my palatial estate out in the country. And I love hanging out with my buddy Randy and getting into great, really freaking cool conversations with our special guest. We'll tell you about her in a minute. Hey, Randy, would you introduce yourself to one or two of these people?
Sure. And we're all set for LinkedIn and Facebook. So we're covered on that end. But yeah, Randy Wooden with Goodwill Industries, Northwest North Carolina. Enjoying the balmy weather today. It's going to be in the mid 60s. We're here in the Triad. And if you're a job hunter, first of the year, I get a lot of folks that kind of say, hey, you know what? Job hunt time, first of the year, let's do it. So I'll get you on the calendar. All services are free, by the way. And that's kind of a big thing, especially if you're out of a job. But got clients all over the country, most of them here in the Triad. Happy to help you and help get where you want to be for 23.
Oh, look at you.
Wow.
I just thought of that. It just oozes from my every pores. So
let's move on, Randy.
Yeah, let's move on quickly. Enough about that, but let's get into the show today. You got a great guest, and looking forward to hearing what Merikay has to say today.
Hey, for anybody who's never heard of or met Merikay Hunt, you have been, you've been missing out. Good friend. I've known her for many, many years. Used to hang out in downtown Greensboro area. I think, did you live in Greensboro, Merikay, when I lived in Winston?
Yes.
And then she moved out, a little further east, and but still in the Carolinas. Look, she is one of the most caring and energetic and thoughtful people you could ever meet. And she has I love how I figured her out, a zest for life and for people. She's dedicated the bulk, if not all of her career, with helping people to move to the next level in their lives and their professional lives. And what she's really after is impacting the way we communicate, the way we think, and the way we use our leadership skills. My friend Merikay Hunt. Merikay, say hello to our audience and tell them what I missed.
Oh, thank you, Teddy. And thank you, Randy. I'm super stoked to be here today. When you were sharing that insight, it made me think of when I was in graduate school at A&T University in North Carolina, and we had to do this profile, and I matched with Gandhi and Margaret Mead. So Margaret Mead likes to study people, and, the Gandhi piece is kind of the spiritual helping service side. So I'm glad that I've been able to weave those two profiles into what I do for a career, which is helping people go to that next level, working individually with executives, providing customized keynotes, and also professional training and development. So I'm really, really, really excited to be here. Thank you.
Cool. And by the way, when I did, 1 minute, I'll give you a second. When I did that comparative assessment, I matched up with Bruce Willis and Groucho Marx.
Okay. Good deal. As always, one of the two of us has to monitor the chat box. And today I have the pleasure of doing that. So if you have comments or questions for Merikay, you want to put them in the chat, we'll try to work them in where we can. And Merikay, this may be one of the first times we've had a guest on who's going to talk about something different necessarily from the work that you do.
Yes.
But I do want to, and so we'll get into the meat of that and how to kind of avoid scams and tread lightly through all the minefields of all the crazy people out there. But I'd like to get your why for what you do in your main job, like you just talked about with the coaching others. I mean, that didn't happen necessarily overnight, or did it? How did you get the why for you?
No, the real catalyst for why I went into development and training is my first job after Chapel Hill. I was a manager for Applebee's, and I was living down in Fort Myers, Florida. And after about 9 months, they fired me. And I was like, there was one manager that I just could not figure out how to get along with her. And, you know, if there's one person in your organization that you have conflict with, if they've got the authority to shuffle you out, they will. So that really kind of inspired me to learn about the human skills needed to lead, the communications, the relationships, conflict resolution, you know, empathy, listening. So that was kind of my aha moment of I better be a good steward of leadership development.
Yeah, got it. So you did that, and I think I'll just turn it over to Teddy. We'll get this thing started, though. Thank you, by the way, Merikay. Thanks.
Sure.
And I didn't understand all that stuff, empathy and support and sharing, esteem and human relationships for many, many years. I think it was I was probably in my mid to late 40s when I really started to figure that out, and it changed my life. DDI certified. Merikay, you know what I'm talking about.
Good for you.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about something a little bit different, just a little bit different. But I guarantee you, in the conversation, your Merikay is not going to stray too far away from the whole idea and what she teaches about, you know, empathy and support and mindset and communications. So Merikay, you and I were talking, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, a month ago, and you said, "Oh my God, Teddy, you won't believe what happened to me on LinkedIn." Would you share a synopsis of that story?
Sure. So about 2.5 months ago, someone reached out to me on LinkedIn. And, you know, I'm sure many of us get requests on a daily basis. So typically I go to the page, I see the similar connections, I look at the profile. And so this happened on this day, and I accepted. And then some messaging started on, you know, the message function of LinkedIn. And, you know, this went back and forth for several weeks. And there was an invite to go on a different platform. And I'm like, I just kind of like LinkedIn or email, or, you know, those are my two modes. I didn't want to go into this other platform because I didn't want another piece of media to have to deal with, or another app. And, you know, we were just dialoguing about work. He was sharing with me about his company. I was exploring if I could do some training for the company. So I was doing some investigative, you know, work in their website. And, you know, I did ask about week 6, because this person said he was a contractor, because I like to trust but verify. And I used to use that principle with my kids. And so I have 3 children, 32, 23, and 19. And so if they would tell me something to my face, then that's cool. You're going to spend the night with Sarah's. Well, I'm going to call Sarah's mom. And, you know, anytime I did that, if it was the truth, they didn't have an issue with it. But if it was not a truth and they were trying to plan a little party in the background, boy, they pitched a rusty. Now you're going to have to look up that phrase. But it was interesting because, you know, there was a little bit of something in my gut that said something doesn't feel right. And this was about week 6, week 7. And so, you know, fast forward a few more weeks. I mean, this guy and I, we'd share scripture. We'd pray for each other. He said that his wife had passed away from COVID. And I mean, my mantra and my philosophy is I'm going to see the best in people. And, you know, I have a lot of people that I share scripture with, or that I pray for, or that, you know, feel comfortable opening up to me. And I feel honored by that. And partly could be because I have a master's degree in counseling. Partly could be because I was an adjunct hospital chaplain. I mean, if someone's going to, you know, be that open, I want to sort of reciprocate as well. So what ended up happening, the turning point was it was a couple of days before Christmas. And now we had talked on the phone a few times. We were supposed to FaceTime, because I FaceTime all my clients. I FaceTime my friends because as Teddy mentioned, I moved to the coast. So I left my whole network in Greensboro, where I had lived the majority of my life. And so, you know, if I'm feeling like I'm missing my peeps, I'll just schedule a Zoom call with somebody or FaceTime them on my phone. So we were supposed to do that, and I didn't hear from them for a couple of days. So then I was initially concerned, and then I was like, wow, is something really wrong? And then I get this photo that they've been in a car wreck, and it's from a hospital. And, you know, having a background in healthcare, I mean, I'm immediately alarmed. And there were a lot of photos that were, you know, shared back and forth. And, you know, from when he was at work, he posted videos on LinkedIn of flying a plane. I mean, all sorts of things. And so, and I thought it was fascinating. So anyway, I finally found out Christmas morning, okay, that he had said he'd been in a car wreck, sends me this picture, and he's like, the doctor's in here talking to me. I'll get back to you as soon as he leaves. Well, I've only told a few people this, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Now, fortunately, I was drinking wine and watching football, so it wasn't really that big of a deal, but I cared. I waited for like 3 hours for this response to see what in the hell happened. And I never heard back from him. So I just sent a message and I said, I'll touch base tomorrow. I hope you're okay. Blessings. And then that night I went to Avatar with my brother and 2 of my children, and my phone starts blowing up about how he needs money and he needs to transfer to a different hospital. And he's in England and he can't access his account because he was based in Chile, Argentina. And I'm thinking to myself, holy crap, is this dude even real? Yeah. So I like started seeing my phone blow up, and I just thought, I'm not even honoring that. I turned it off. And when I got back home later that night, to my girlfriend's house in Greensboro, where I was staying, this is the message I sent. And I'll tell you how to craft these messages. Okay. So the message said, I am unable to assist you at this time. This is my last communication. Best wishes. And what I share that with you, because what I call that Oreo communication. So the top layer of the cookie, if you will, we've all had an Oreo, I hope, but that top layer is something positive and purposeful that you say, right? In that middle cream layer, that's the change, the correction, the action, the reprimand, the need, the encouragement, whatever the real essence of the communication is. And then you end it. And I wanted it to be short and sweet. Yeah. And I did see what he posted afterwards. And of course, he was blasting me. How can you abandon me in my time of need? Blah, blah, blah. I didn't respond. I just deleted everything. And then I blocked him on my email, blocked him on LinkedIn. And here's my real aha, you guys. After that happened, my radar went up super, super high. And I started noticing fake profiles on Instagram trying to link to me. Fake profiles on my Facebook business page trying to link to me. I also watched the 2-session series on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm sorry, forgive me, on Netflix. About the catfish, the young student from Notre Dame, the quarterback, who thought that he was in a relationship with this young woman for a year electronically. Yeah. And this person on the other end had created this whole family of a profile. And I mean, you'll have to watch it to believe it. But here's my thing. And this is why I answered Randy's phone call on the day that, or Teddy, I'm sorry, I answered Teddy's phone call. So I woke up one morning and I try to do a post once or twice on LinkedIn. Sometimes it's a video, sometimes it's about a book, sometimes it's about a client, whatever. And this particular morning I woke up and everything in my spirit said, Merikay, you gotta share what happened, because I don't want this to happen to anybody else. And just in the time that I've opened up to people about this experience, I had a good friend of mine tell me that one of her best friends in Maryland, his mom got scammed for $20,000 from $20,000 from somebody that she had been talking to online. Now that was in a more of a relationship context instead of business, but still, you know, and I'm very caring and giving. I mean, I gave my mom's good friend, when COVID hit, $10,000 because she was going to lose her condo. I mean, I have a relationship with this woman, but still, it just, part of me thought, I don't want anybody to really experience this on this level, but I also want people to be cautious and careful. So I've kind of learned some things to look for in the last few weeks that, you know, might be fruitful as well.
Yeah, and Merikay, thank you for sharing that story and sharing it deeper than, you know, because it's important to truly let people hear. Look, we're all humans, and the world is full. My phrase, Merikay, said a little bit more bluntly than you would teach me to say it, is the world is full of idiots. We have to learn how to walk around them without smashing them in the face. But I'm with you. I didn't never use the phrase Oreo messaging, but I will now because I do that.
Yeah.
When I tell a scammer to go away, I'll very politely say, I wish you all the best in what you do, but you will never hear from me again because I just reported, and then my next step is to block you. Bye. And
have a nice day.
You know, and you know, I ask the audience here, and you know, maybe Randy has an example as well. I think that all of us either have or have loved ones or good friends who have been scammed or have been pushed close to being scammed, and we can relate. And I can tell you firsthand for myself and family members have been pushed to the edge, not pushed, encouraged to the edge, you know, by others who want to scam us. And I think, you know, I know this firsthand. I know this firsthand, that the older we get, the easier it is for us to drop our guard. What do you think, Merikay?
No, I think so. And it could be because maybe we're leaning more towards compassion. Maybe we've seen a lot of experiences over our lifetime. And, you know, that can cause us to soften a little bit, or maybe we've had loss, or, you know, maybe somebody really, for whatever reason, their story resonates with us and we do feel a need to help or support.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Randy, you want to take any of the questions that came in?
You know, it's a little confusing, the question. So, but it just goes back to, let's say LinkedIn, for example, and, you know, they'll ask you if you need to reopen your account, they'll ask you for your ID and your information. But again, if I don't have that ID and the information, I can't open up that account. But buyer beware, I guess that's the thing. And, you know, back to the thing about, you know, as we get older, I remember my grandfather had issues. He bought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Canadian lottery tickets from some dude. You know, I don't know where he was, but he befriended him.
Fort Myers, Florida.
Probably. And it was like, hey, don't you want to set your heirs up for life? All you need to do is win one of these things, and, you know, everybody's going to live happily ever after. But I think if we get burned at some point, I run into this a fair amount with, not a whole lot, but with clients, the concern about privacy is because they've been bitten. They themselves or a good friend has had their identity stolen, or they've been stalked, particularly females, stalked by men who wish to do them harm, kind of thing. And so, you know, what's the old saying? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Well, won't get fooled again.
Yeah, I'm with you. So, and by the way, from a technical perspective, to answer Dean's question, if you discover that someone is a fake, a fraud, they're just trying to screw you over, whatever the words are, then do like Merikay did. Go block report their account from their profile, and then block them and move on to more important things. So Merikay, you're in a previous life, you used to be a Dale Carnegie coach, and I learned a lot as I also studied Dale Carnegie for many years. And one of the things, never criticize, condemn, or complain. It's number one rule, I believe. Never criticize, condemn, or complain. That gets hard to do, but we got to when we're dealing with scammers, we have to manage it and manage our emotions, manage our words, so that we fulfill that, you know, Dale Carnegie principle: never condemn, criticize, or complain. But talk about trust a little bit, because you talked about that. You wanted to trust this person, and I think in life we should all want to trust people. What are your thoughts?
Well, trust is one of those things that I'm realizing more and more has to be earned. So I joined a church a few months ago down here, and we just started this new life group. So we're reading this book about boundaries, and the book's called Good Boundaries and Goodbyes. Yeah. And what we talked about last week, which was really interesting, is that we can't give someone level 10 access if there's a level 3 of a commitment or accountability. And when that visual came up on the screen, I thought, good Lord, I give everybody level 10 because that's just who I am as a person. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of an aha moment. I thought, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to, allow people to connect with me or whatever, but I'm just going to be a little bit more guarded, and I'm going to have better boundaries. So if there is something said or something done, or something that just doesn't feel quite right, I'm going to be very cautious about the level of access. It was interesting because when I moved into this coastal home last year, I wanted the firefighters to come and put up my fire detectors. That's one of my fears. I don't have many, but that's one of them. And I told a friend of mine that I was going to have the fire department come in, and he hit the roof. He's like, why would you let strangers in your house? I'm like, it's the fire department. But then on the converse side of that, I've heard of firefighters and police officers scamming people, themselves. So I think we need to be cautious against labeling, right? I don't want to label LinkedIn as unsafe. I don't want to label firefighters as unsafe or whatnot. I think we have to be a good steward of our, not just our boundaries, but really listening to our gut. I believe when I trained as a chaplain, my instructor said that he believed that when his gut was speaking to him, that was God, that was the higher power. And I think too many of us don't listen to that. And in fact, right before our presentation today, I was on the phone with a colleague that was at the healthcare conference with me last week. And one of the stories she shared is, she felt in her gut she needed to fire this employee, but she didn't do it. And that employee ended up wreaking havoc in her firm. And I had to share with her, I'm like, don't ignore that. Yeah. So if something kind of feels off, that's sort of our way that we can ask ourselves, do I feel like I can lean in and have trust? Now, the other thing too that's really important is I don't want anybody to let these bad experiences kind of create clouds in our mindset. One of my favorite books is called The 4 Agreements. And one of the agreements is don't take things personally. I'm working with a Stephen minister here in my new church. He's amazing. And, we talk about that sometimes because there's so many people walking around wounded. I mean, I've had so much crap happen to me in my lifetime. If I didn't let it go or just give it to the big man upstairs, I couldn't do what I do for a living. Yeah. But I'm not going to take it personally just because somebody else chose to be horrible, or somebody else chose to be distrustful, or somebody else chose to do a bad thing. I don't have anything to do with that. That's on them.
Yeah. And that whole idea of trust, we often hear people say, don't work with that company. They're no good. Don't buy that service. They're no good. Everybody has their opinion about everything. And I think my word behooves us, where relevant and appropriate, to hear those ideas about trusting or not trusting companies, individuals, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
But we should also what's the phrase? I don't know where this came from. Take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
We should figure out, why does that person have that feeling, to whatever extent we can. And we don't necessarily need to make our opinion exactly like someone else's just because that person told us to.
Well, and it's interesting you say that, Teddy, because if somebody were to say that to me, I would respond by saying, tell me more.
Yeah.
Or help me understand your perspective. Because who knows what happened? Maybe they had a bad experience, or they had a cousin that had a bad experience. But I've told people when I teach in my leadership courses, I want everybody to pretend like they have a filter on their head. And just receive what you need to receive, because not everything I say is going to apply, or not everything we dialogue about is going to click. but we just need to be open to the opportunity. And that's why, just because this happened, I don't want to not accept more LinkedIn connections, but I'm just being very careful. And if something doesn't feel right, I'm just deleting it. Somebody texted me this morning from some iCloud Gmail account on my phone. Well, I mean, my phone's on my website. I just didn't even respond. Sometimes I'll say, I don't have this email in my address, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. I want everybody to put a dollar value on your time. I don't have time to respond.
Yeah.
And it took me years to give myself permission not to respond to every single email. I can't anymore. I don't have time. And I've had interns and I've had people assist me before. And honestly, it's like, and I'm looking at exploring that again. But I think a lot of people expect a response on email. And if somebody really wants me, they can call me old school. And it was funny because after I posted my video to tell my story on LinkedIn, 10 minutes later, Teddy called me and I'm like, are you reading my story? I'm listening to it right now. And I said, is this really Teddy?
Yeah. We have to trust, to whatever degree we should trust people. But also, Merikay, in the context of emails or text messages we get, Randy and I have talked about this before as well, and that is some of those are just phishing. They're just phishing to see if it's a real email address and maybe get your signature with your rest of your contact information when you respond back to them. Some of the text messages are just phishing as well, just to find out if you're going to respond to that text message. And so they put your email, your phone number in a list to be sold to other people. You don't need to respond to everything that comes into your systems. And
hey, Dale had an interesting point. And before I forget, something I'd like to tackle in the second half of the show. So let's guys make a mental note of this. And this deals with this whole trust but verify. And I run into this a lot with job hunter clients of mine. They see a job posting, they're like, is this real? They want my social security number and they want all this information, and it's a little, I can't find them online and all of that stuff. So I'd like to tackle it also from a job hunter perspective, because we have a lot of clients and a lot of job hunters on the call. But real quick, Dale had a question or a comment. He's an IT guy, a senior level IT guy. And his thought was, could these be these artificial intelligent bots that are out there? And Teddy, I sent it to you the other day. I sent an article I saw where it said something like 90% of internet communication or traffic is going to be AI based over the next handful of years. So you may wonder, am I really dealing with a human or a robot? And in his case, Dale says there's no need to be nice to AI. Yeah. Just move on.
Yeah. And I by the way, I'm doing research on this, Randy. I had a guy scheduled for a call today.
Yeah.
Who said to me he would peel back the layers and tell me how he is able to sell LinkedIn accounts, which, by the way, is not real. And why does he sell these accounts to fake LinkedIn members? He was supposed to call me this morning, 10 o'clock. I didn't think he would, and he didn't. But the bottom line is, just like Dale said, and with Merikay, the first one or two messages could have been 100% AI scripted, just to see how she would respond. And then, Floyd out of, Arkansas got on the call with her and took over for the bot. So, the start is almost always automation. So
I got you. Hey, we're almost halfway, Teddy. We made it halfway.
Go ahead and do the middle of the show spot. Merikay, great conversation. The second half, we'll dig in a little bit deeper and have and share a little bit more ideas. Hey, our show is sponsored in part by Blackwell Captive Solutions. And we've known these folks for a long time. They have more than 25 years experience in the healthcare insurance business. They're medical stop loss captive. The new term for me, but it kind of makes sense, and I'm really understanding the value of this. Is easy for businesses to implement and works like a shock absorber for high dollar medical claims. If you know someone, or if your industry or your business is a need for that kind of support, reach out to the Blackwell Captive Solutions or blackwellcaptive.com. Let them know that Teddy told you to give them a call. switched it up, didn't I, dude?
You did, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, if you have comments or questions for Merikay, you want to add those in the chat box. We'll try to work them in where we can. I don't know if you want to tackle that education piece. I'd love to hear a little bit your thoughts, both of you guys, on how far do we trust? At what point do we just move on? And when companies start to ask you for personal information, a little too soon in the process. Have you run into that, Teddy? Merikay?
Well, I have, and I've talked with job seekers about this as well. Look, Merikay and I will talk about this a little bit more. The whole verify piece is critical. And you don't need to verify every Tom, Dick, and Harry that reaches out to you. You can ignore most of them. But for job seekers, this is painful. Randy, you and I have run across this before, where they get solicited to apply for a job, and the next thing you know, they're not really applying for a job. They're feeding the automated systems or feeding some nefarious organization their digits.
Yeah. Well, and people, if you've been out of a job for a while, you begin to get a little desperate. And when somebody gives you the time of day, you're like, Remember, we had Mike Fenley on a few months ago. Mike was in here. He had worked for Senator Burr. He was a field rep for Senator. But we did a show on scams. And, the whole thing about, we'll ship.
How's the state taking care of this? How we're
and how they will, you need to write us a check for the 4,000 or. No, we'll send you a check for like $5,000 for the first week of your services, and then we'll ship you all this, all the materials. And so you go ahead and cash the check, and then the materials. And now your bank says, "Wait a second, this check bounced." In the meantime, you've already sent out. So there's scams. Job hunters, you got to really pay attention here, folks. And if it smells and looks kind of fishy,
just a little bit.
Why don't you move on? Because there are a lot of other jobs out there. Thoughts on that, Merikay? I don't know if you've run into that with anybody with the scam.
Well,
work from home and all that.
Yeah, I had an issue of I got a text that I had a package that needed to be delivered, and it was a USPS, but the address was different. But I didn't know it, and I thought it was legit. So I went in and because I was waiting on a package and put my information in there, and so I screenshotted it and sent it to my cousin. And she was like, "Merikay, you just got scammed. Now they've got your email," because it asked for my birthday, which I thought was weird. That was my flag. I was like, why are they asking for my birthday? Anyway, so yeah, I think whether we're applying for a job, we need to be cautious about our social. I did that. I even did the IRS verify thing online, and I was nervous about it because I thought, do I really want them to have my face? But they owed me a bunch of money. So I thought, I got to take a chance here, but I had to do that scan thing. Who knows? And I don't know if any of y'all saw the movie Don't Look Up, but when I saw that on Netflix last year, it made me feel like we need to be cautious, not just digitally, but even what we see on television. They're telling us a vision. And I stopped watching the news 9 years ago. I stopped the paper. I just don't watch it.
Wait a minute. Wait. No, hey, hang on here, Hunt, for a second.
He writes an article every other week.
You're looking at one of the main contributors to the Winston-Salem Journal. I'll just have you.
Sorry. It was the News and Record in Greensboro. So it wasn't your paper, sweetheart. Let me tell you why. This is why. I'm sitting in my kitchen in Greensboro, okay? And I took the N and R out, and I circled every negative article.
Yeah.
There was nothing positive in there. So no offense to you. But I thought, you know what? This is not how I'm launching my day.
Yeah.
And so the same thing for the news. No offense to the newscasters, but it's all dark and negative. Yeah. And I want to be in kind of the positive, purposeful land. Now, I did meet someone Saturday, and I'm kind of excited about this.
Okay.
But I got stuck in Charlotte, flying back from Phoenix, and I was watching football, getting something to eat, and this dude sat down next to me. He looked real. I'm not sure, but he looked real. And started talking. Turns out he went to Maryland, so he, of course, bashed me because I went to Chapel Hill, and he recalled apparently when, Chapel Hill beat Maryland somewhere in the 80s. I don't know. Yep. But he was a Dale Carnegie graduate. And I told him about my issues about the news. We just talked about all these eclectic things. And he shared with me an email that he gets every day, and supposedly it's unfiltered news. Now I've scanned it, so I'm leaning in a little bit, Randy, just a little bit. But I rely on my colleagues to kind of tell me what's up. Even one of my former instructors for Dale Carnegie, when I shared this on LinkedIn last year about my news aversion, he's like, well, you got to read reputable publications. So here again, it really just comes back to mindset. It comes back to my personal choice of what I want to fill this with. And it's not, it's just more things that are uplifting and purposeful.
I'm with you. And I agree with that, by the way. And I'm pulling your leg. I write a business in the business section. It's a job hunt column. So it's not news and heavy, gloom and doom stuff. But I'm the same way, like on Facebook, for example. I don't dread looking at Facebook because I have either unfollowed, unfriended, whatever. If all you want to do is hammer politics and I left or right, and I happen to be right leaning, but if you're a right wing bomb thrower or you're a left wing bomb thrower, I don't want any part of that, because I want to go on there for fun and enjoyment, be informed a little bit, but I want to be preached to. And I don't want it to be a contentious peeing match.
Well, it's a boundary, right? That's another boundary on technology that we need to set. In fact, one of the other examples that my coaching client shared is she said, we had a surgeon call me. He was leaving the hospital, so he was launching a new practice. And this surgeon texted her on New Year's Eve. And what did she do? She responded. So if you respond to a text or call or anything on Sunday or in the evenings or on a holiday, you are opening up the window for them to know that they can get you on a holiday or in the evening or on a Sunday. And I worked with a consultant years ago in dentistry. She'd be on the phone all Sunday with these dentists. And I'm like, you have no quality of life if you're doing that. And her husband was an attorney. And so what ended up happening? Well, their marriage dissolved because, Saturday was basically their only day together, and he's off doing his stuff. She's off doing her stuff, and she's on the phone all day. So boundaries come in many, many forms.
You hear that, Teddy? Boundaries,
I do, buddy.
Teddy.
I do.
Boundaries.
I absolutely.
He works me terribly.
I'm good with you waiting until 4:00 in the morning to respond to my message to you. Hey, let's talk about mindset for a minute, Merikay, because this is, this conversation is really broad and or it could be very deep. But let's just take it broad for a minute. Mindset is critical. I give you an example. I have an 8-year-old grandson he was hanging out with me for a while they're preparing to get to their next house, and some mornings he doesn't have the right mindset. And so my wife came home one day and said, I want to start practicing something. And she said, I want to practice every morning before I get out of bed. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to say to myself, today will be a fabulous day for me, and I'm going to make sure I do everything I can to make that happen.
Absolutely.
And she told this 8-year-old grandson about this. Now, I'm not saying it's changed his life, but I will tell you there have been at least 2 mornings in the past week where I've heard him say to my wife, they refer to their grandmother as Bum, B-U-M, Bum, I told myself today is going to be a good day.
Yeah.
That's mindset.
Heck yeah.
And we got to practice it over and over again, but we can have this mindset about the people we engage with. We can trust them until they give us one red flag that we shouldn't trust them. And we can believe in people until we get, my words, one red flag not to believe you. And there's other ways that people can believe us more, and that is, or we can believe others more. And that might be a combination of integrity and our relationship.
Sure.
Talk about that for a minute. Randy?
I kind of play off a question Lisa had here. And I guess, Merikay, you being a coach, have you found it possible to coach your boss, to coach your coworkers?
Amen. Yes.
To be able to play better with others and to make it a better environment? How How have you gone about that in 30 seconds, Orlando? How have you done that? It's doable, but what are some tactics we can deploy if we have a boss that we're kind of like, eh?
So first of all, get the book, The 360-Degree Leader by John Maxwell.
Yep.
And that gives you strategies to interface with people that is colleagues, your supervisors, or subordinates. And here's the other thing. Let's say you use this podcast as your catalyst.
Yep.
So let's say Randy's my boss, and Randy, you're coming in and you're going to be all negative and, you know, an Eeyore and just, you know, shooting down all the ideas as usual. And I'm going to let you finish. And then I'm going to say, Randy, I was on a podcast yesterday and I just have to share something with you. You know, we really talked about the power of mindset. And so moving forward, I'm really going to encourage you to try to look at the positives in this project or the positives in these people, because I'm making a commitment to doing that. And I'm setting a boundary on the negativity here in the office because I want to be as productive as possible. And, you know, for some of us, you may really struggle saying something like that because it's assertive and you're setting a boundary. So I encourage you to write it out on a note card. I took an assertiveness course when I was in my mid-20s because I got tired of people walking all over me. I was a receptionist in a dental office, and I used to be the dental assistant. So back in the chair you got treated one way, but then when you moved up front, it was kind of the witch that wanted the money. And so I had to learn how to be assertive with people in a very loving and kind way.
Interesting.
I love it, Merikay. I was going to write the word. I was going to respond back to Lisa with modeling, but your answer is way more powerful.
You can model all day long, but now this is a counseling strategy. That dialogue I just used with Randy, that's verbally throwing ice water on somebody. Yeah. And let me tell you this. I went years ago, I was bringing somebody into Dale Carnegie to take over my job. And I mean, so here I am giving my book of business to this woman, right? She's not buying it. I'm handing it to her. So we went on a new sales call and the company had this sign up front, welcome Merikay and Angie. It was I was like, oh, this is cool. So we get back in there. He's got this big desk he's standing behind. He's got NC State stuff everywhere, which of course for a Carolina girl. But anyway, I looked over that. So I start doing my interviewing and my questions, and I felt like he was lying to me. I felt like he wasn't giving me all the information and being sarcastic. And so I could feel myself starting to cry. And I'm like, here's the girl I'm transferring my business to. This guy's being a complete asshole. I'm getting embarrassed for her and me. So I said, excuse me a minute. So I went to the bathroom, said a prayer, made sure the mascara wasn't coming. And I came back in, I sat down and I said, you know, for the last 20 minutes, I felt like you've been sarcastic and not truthful. How does that serve your people well? And he pushed back from the table and he said, what do you mean? I said, sarcasm, the meaning of sarcasm is ripping flesh. So I'm just curious, as the leader in your organization, how does that serve you well? And there was this awkward silence, which we have to be comfortable for. And you know what? He was just trying to be a rooster and just show his feathers. And he really made himself look like an ass. Well, the good news is we got several $1,000s out of him and his company because, you know, he said, I have a lot of people telling me I'm sarcastic, and he took the company over from his father, who didn't lead that way. Yeah. So we need to be aware of, you know, how we're communicating. And you know what? We got to be willing to put it out there. And I'm not going to work with toxic people. I'm not going to engage with toxic people, and I'm going to speak my truth. And I'm going to have better boundaries.
Yeah, I'm with you. I absolutely with you. Merikay, thanks for sharing that. I mean, it's important. I remember a real quick short story. I worked for a guy who was an ist. He was an ist, and every, you know, racist, sexist, you know, homophobe, everything you can imagine. He was all of that. And he had no qualms sharing out loud to small groups of people his istisms. Okay. And he would always end his statements with, not that there's anything wrong with them being that way. And one day I had enough of that. And I've been working for him for about 4 years. And I looked him square in the eye one day in front of my peers, other executives. And I said, the next time you start in that type of conversation, talking about people the way you talk about people, I will walk out of the room and wait for the next conversation that's business relevant. I did it 3 times.
Good for you.
The 4th time I stood up and I was blessed to be able to do this. I quit.
Yeah.
I was tired of it. I mean, we can't live in that lifestyle and expect our lives to be rich and fulfilling.
Randy, sometimes we have to cut bait, right?
We do.
We're going to have all the statements from today.
We have tons of them.
Anything you got, Randy? Should we move on?
I think we can move on.
You know, Merikay, a lot of these things that happen to us in lives, a lot of the fakes, the AIs, all of that stuff, you know, the scammers, you know, it happens to us, in my mind, for a reason. And that reason is for us to learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
I've got this great quote that I saw this morning. It says, never regret a day in your life. Good days give you happiness. Bad days give you experience. Worst days give you lessons. And best days give you memories. And see, we can even transpose the days to hours or minutes, because there's so many people that let one bad thing derail their whole day or their whole week or whole month. And let's not give it that much power.
Yeah. Again, go back to the 8-year-old. I mean, by the way, playing grandpa full time with these 2, I got an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old living with me, really gets me to look at life a little differently and look at the way, you know, I engage with humans at all ages, you know, really old people like Randy and really young kids, you know, people like my grandkids. But I can remember recently where my wife said words to that effect to one of these. She's, by the way, the smart one when it comes to kids, not me. And she said to one of the grandsons, don't let that moment ruin your day.
Yeah. And
he stopped and looked at her, and I saw that he got it. Now, I didn't see it change him phenomenally, but I saw that he got it, and like, damn, why couldn't I get that when I was his age? You know, you got to get that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, you know, we have to learn every day.
Yeah. And Teddy, I want to come back to mindset, because this is really, really important. If you're going to use affirmations and if you're going to try to shift your mindset, you have to make statements and say things that is congruent with your being. And I think this is one of the reasons why, you know, I vacillate on the Tony Robbins model a little bit, because we may be saying things that we really don't believe, or that's not really congruent with who we are. So, you know, launching that moment in the beginning of your day is critical. There's a great consultant named Mike Collins who used to run the Perfect Workday company.
Yep.
And he would say that every morning we have an opportunity to put like a mental CD in our head. And so if I'm going to walk around and say, I'm not going to trust people, I'm not going to believe it's real. I mean, just think of the darkness that we're putting on ourselves. Whereas I'm going to be open. I'm going to trust my gut. And same thing in the morning when we launch. Today's going to be a great day. Today's an opportunity to make a difference. Today's an opportunity for me to speak my truth. Whatever it is, I think it's just got to be something that's important to you and that's congruent with who you are.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I wrote down that phrase you said, saying things to ourselves and to others that we don't truly believe. Wow, that sounds so painful to me. You know, to live that life. And yeah, absolutely. And look, Randy Collins, first time attendee. And I you know, no disrespect to you to Merikay, but another great presenter, knocking the socks off of a new attendee.
Yep.
I'm gonna find out where that came from as well.
Knocking the socks off, huh?
Knocking the socks off. I want to see how that happens. So
Randy's a great guy. He's got a great name too, I might add. I really like that name.
Collins. I don't. Yeah, I agree.
No, first name.
So,
yeah.
All right. So let's talk about mistakes. Now, there's lots of ways we can talk about mistakes, Merikay.
Oh, Lord, yes.
We can talk about mistakes that we repeat. Oh my God, I hate it when I repeat the same mistake over and over and over again, and you gotta get better at it. But talk a little bit about mistakes in the context of trusting and verifying. What are your thoughts?
So two's coming to my heart. One, I think in Randy's realm of, let's say we've applied for a position and we don't get the position. Well, I think, if it were me, and I've done this in the past, I just want to know why so that I can learn from it. And, I think I've made the mistake in the past, not being assertive enough to really track them down and get them to have a conversation with me. And one of the other examples that I shared with Teddy when we were talking is one of my largest clients, Ralph Lauren in High Point. I had done several projects with them, and we got down to the wire, and I had carved out dates. I had a hotel reserved for this leadership retreat. And, when I called my contact back to secure the time and just review everything, he said, "Oh, we picked another vendor." And I'm thinking, dude, why didn't you tell me, And he said, "I didn't tell you, Merikay, because I didn't want to hurt your feelings." And because he and I would have lunch. I mean, we'd collaborate about other stuff. And I'm thinking, I'm a big girl. I'm fine if you're not going to move forward with me, but I wish you would have told me. Mm-hmm. But what I learned is I should have asked.
Yeah.
So I should have said, are there other vendors that you're going to be interviewing for this project? I never asked. So that was a huge learning lesson for me. Yeah. And I think too, even today, if I'm doing a proposal for an executive coaching agreement, or if I'm doing a pitch for a 1-hour virtual success series or whatever, if they don't want to move forward, that's okay. Or if they need to wait, or if it's budget or whatever, just let me know. I don't have an issue with it at all, because I'm a firm believer. If it's meant to be, it will be. Yeah. And let's all say that together. Yeah. If it's meant to be, it will be. Don't force anything. You cannot put toothpaste back in the tube. And we keep trying to push and force, and and I will do a little spiritual plug. I mean, and it's taken me years to do this, but I like being in the driver's seat. And I do a better job praying about stuff for my business than I do in my personal life. So now I'm getting in the back seat about everything. And I'm just letting him guide, letting him sort of, align. I'm doing my part, right? I'm doing my work. But much like most of you, you might have scheduled some New Year's resolutions or whatnot. And the key is that don't give up. If you have had a shitty January and you're not where you want to be, who cares? Start another 90 days in February. I'm reading this great book. I don't have it in here, but it's called The 12-Week Year. And I heard about this last year. And that was actually the day I did the video about my LinkedIn experience, was the day I was going to talk about that book. And I chose not to. But I share that with you because, if what's happened the last 3 weeks has not served you well, it doesn't matter. It's in the past. Let it go. Start anew tomorrow, right?
I'm with you. So here's another thought. And that is, it just went poof. It just went freaking poof.
That synapse just got too excited about the idea and just went to sleep.
Oh, I know what it is. And I've been, a volunteer career coach for years, and helping people, listening to their stories, listen to what they did, and help. And I get to build the way I help people based on what I hear happens. And one of the things I hear happen from people, whether in job search or career or in business, and that is they're afraid to ask why they didn't get the book of business. They're afraid to ask why they didn't get the job because they think it might cause some problem with future opportunities. And I think that is totally the wrong perspective. I think if you're a job seeker and you interviewed for a job, then you should make sure you did the work you need to do to be able to come back to them later if they tell you no and go, hey, I want to grow, I want to become better, and I need your help to do that. Sure. Tell me why I didn't get hired for this job. And say it to them in a way that you really need their help to make you better for the future. You don't want to challenge their position. You don't want to challenge their decision, but you need their help to grow.
And you could say it this way. Help me understand the points of difference with the candidate you selected.
Yeah.
Another way you could say it too is because why question is the most dangerous question. I already know the answer. All I care about is the value of your excuse. Why were you late? I know you're late. So what's your excuse? Is it going to be valid? Do I buy it?
Yeah.
But so instead of maybe saying, so why didn't I get the job? What you could say is help me understand the factors that led to your decision.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it kind of, it softens it a little bit. Doesn't put them on the why question is the most dangerous question out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we got to be willing, as Merikay said earlier, we have to have enough, she didn't use these words, enough backbone, you know, to be able to stand up and go, I'm good. I know I'm good. Help me understand why I didn't serve your need or why you felt someone else served your need better. So my thought is help me grow.
Absolutely. Well, and here's the thing. What you're talking about are mindsets, right?
Yeah.
You have a growth mindset and we have a fixed mindset. The growth mindset's going to take risks. They're going to ask the why question or the help me understand question or what's the point of difference question. Yeah. It's the fixed mindset that wants to stay in the little box and only go after the jobs they think they can get or not have the hard, fierce conversations. And it is what it is, which is why I think when it comes to trust, but verify, we have to be willing to take that risk to really trust. And, you know, there was another a gentleman from Oregon who was a consultant and we were looking at a potential coaching opportunity. And so I said, well, I want to go to your company website and check it out a little bit. And he's like, well, you know, I won't show up on there. And I'm thinking he might not. And he was on LinkedIn too. And I'm like, good Lord. So here again, just be cautious, be wise, have boundaries, and make sure you do your due diligence. Cause you know, I just felt like he wasn't real either.
Yeah. And ask the right questions. Mm-hmm. That's probably another big tool that we can quiver in our arrow in our quiver. Ready? We got to get a VA to go through here and scrape out all these little sayings and put them in a bucket so we can talk about them.
We can. Yeah, I got a quick story, but Merikay, do you have a quick tip and one thing we need to remember from today?
Yeah, closing.
Trust your gut.
Trust your gut.
Trust your gut. Let me throw this at you, Teddy, and I'll have you do a quick story and close out. Years ago, when I got my start in recruiting, we were talking about how you didn't ask the tough questions, Merikay, about the other vendors that you're considering, that kind of thing. I remember our boss used to say, no is okay. No is, I'd prefer yes, but to not hear anything doesn't work for me. And here's why. We can control our time and our attitude. Those are about the two things we have reasonable control over. And especially as a commissioned salesperson in the recruiting world, time is money. And I need to spend it in ways that are more apt to generate revenue. And if you're going to string me along, I'd rather hear no sooner versus later. They used to say, try to break it if you can. Ask the tough questions, try to break it if you can, but move it to the next step and not sit there and idle and wonder. Same thing with job hunters. They don't know after they've interviewed, should I call them? Should I not? What's the next step and when? And, you know, you need to have a little bit more assertiveness. And I think it's certainly within your rights to have that. And if they say, no, we're not interested, at least you can move on. Absolutely. And not be strung along. So time and attitude, control those. Teddy, take us home, buddy.
Merikay, thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate you. And it's a good conversations. Hey, next week, Bill Truitt, he'll be on. He's from the Electric Vehicle Association. And so the conversation is going to be about the electric vehicle industry. It's going to be pros and cons, the good and the bad. We're not bringing someone on to pitch that everybody needs to go buy what's it called? The new Ford Lightning or whatever, or the new Chevy Volt or whatever. It's going to be a really interesting conversation about where is this industry going and how is it going to impact our lives, our world in lots of different ways. So join us next week for that show. Promise you good conversations. Our show is sponsored in part by the Blackwell Captive Solutions. We want to thank them for being a sponsor. They're all about ownership, peace of mind, price stability, and they're all about helping businesses put together that captive tool to make sure their insurance for their employees is working well. Thank you again, Merikay. Good to see you. Randy, take care, stay out of trouble. We hope that all of our audience members come back and visit us again next week and bring a friend. Boom, waka waka. See you all later.
All right. Have a good day. Thank you, Merikay. Thank you.